everyone, hope you're having a great Friday so far. My name is Sarah Fairclough and I'm the Business Administrator for our Platform Solutions team here at SmartSimple. Today we're going to be talking more about goals tracking. Just a couple housekeeping items before we get started. We will be sending a recording to you all of the webinar within a week. And additionally, we are going to be having a Q&A session just at the end of the presentation, so please feel free to post your questions throughout. We just won't be answering them till after. And now I'm going to pass it off to my host, Dan.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dan Erdley. I'm our Senior Platform Solutions Manager at SmartSimple Software. I work a lot with many of our corporate clients, but also have a lot of experience working with a number of our more traditional philanthropic organizations as well. Today, as Sarah mentioned, we're going to be talking about goals tracking, how we've created a solution for that within the platform, how you can visualize that activity, and then track activity against those specific goals. So with that, we're going to talk about the goals tracking structure that we've created, some options and different flexibility that provides you, and then also the ability to aggregate those financial contributions, as well as being able to define your own key performance indicators and being able to aggregate that activity and roll it up throughout the system. So the real problem we were looking to solve here by creating this structure is that, many of your organizations may already have specific goals or pillars that you're focused on. With our structure, our focus was around the UN's Sustainable Development Goals as that framework. You may use those as well, or you might have your own established goals. In either case, we wanted a way to be able to roll up activity in the system against those applicable goals so that you can see that activity across all areas of your contributions. So for, say, a larger corporate organization that might have an employee giving program, matching gifts, volunteer programs, as well as charitable giving and corporate contributions, we want to be able to visualize all of those contributions and how those are reflected against your goals. So by doing that, we're able to add a goals tracking module within the system, which defines those specific goals that you're looking to track, as the name suggests with goals tracking, and then can aggregate data elsewhere in the system. So you'll get to define what those goals or pillars are, so it's not predetermined. The examples we'll be walking through today are all based around that Sustainable Development Goal or SDG framework, but like I mentioned, you'd be able to structure this however you need based on your organization. And then based on us assigning goals to specific grants or specific volunteer opportunities or other types of actions that are occurring in the system, then all of the metrics related to those records can then be rolled up to the corresponding goal or goals. And your KPI measurements certainly don't need to be just limited to dollars and cents. So, a lot of the examples I'll show you today are related to that. But I've even been working with an organization in Denmark right now where they are using this framework that we're going to show you today. But then they defined an additional 4 KPIs that they wanted to be able to track against those SDGs. And then based on their volunteering activity and the data that's entered there, it can then roll up to the applicable goals. So the real benefits here are, that ability to track everything in one place. So you have one visual display of that, one area to be able to present that in the system, and then that you can roll up all that activity to that central location while also being able to provide additional reporting. So the full reporting capabilities of the platform are what also make this beneficial and what make it possible in the first place, so that you can present that data in a variety of different manners, that you can also take it out of the system and present it, let's say, on the higher end within a business intelligence tool, so that you can feed that into Power BI or Tableau, and then be able to do additional roll-up and trends analysis and things of that nature. So to go ahead and get started, we'll switch over to our demonstration. So now you all should be seeing the goals tracking module that we have created within our Engage demo system. And again, the Engage concept was structured around that SDG framework, but really it's the goals tracking framework. So we're using the SDGs as our goals. That doesn't mean that you have to as well. You could have your own specific defined goals that you've been working towards maybe as an organization, whether that's through traditional philanthropy or through corporate social responsibility, and you would be able to define that framework within the specific module. So as you can see, we have our 17 sustainable development goals that we've defined and created within the goals tracking module. What we're using here for this display, just for those that maybe haven't seen a list view look like this, you can make a list view, a grid list view, and then define an image to be able to be shown with each of the records, that image being stored on the record itself. So it's another nice visual display of your data rather than the traditional line-by-line list views. But to show you a different contributions overview perspective of that in more of a traditional list view is that you'll see we have each of our SDGs defined, and then we can then see our grant value, our employee giving value, our total number of volunteer hours and volunteer value equated as wage equivalencies based on the total number of hours and then standard wage equivalency rates. So that we can see, at least from a financial contribution standpoint, across our entire organization and all the ways that we're contributing. If we're tracking all of that in the platform, which you can do today, you can certainly do your grants like many of you may already do on the platform, but you can also use it as a volunteer management system, employee giving campaigns and matching gifts, and do that all in one place so that all of that reporting is possible to be able to be rolled up to those individual goals. So on those individual goals, you'll see that we can then display overall information related to it, what we're looking to track and what we're looking to impact, and then being able to roll up all of those contributions against each of those areas, as well as an overall total contribution number. One thing that you can do is that you can also set specific targets or goals, so that based on those goals of that you want to be able to contribute X number of dollars, or you want to be able to impact Y number of people, or you want to be able to provide Z number of gallons of clean water to a community, whatever those targets are, you would be able to define those within the structure, and then based on the data being entered elsewhere in the system, whether that be a grant report or somebody submitting their volunteer hours or what have you, then we can roll up that data to the matching goal that was assigned to that record. So how we do this, and kind of showing you some of the different ways that this is done, is that it's going to be rolling up and aggregating that data through formulas and workflows in the system, which we won't get too much into the technical weeds today. But I want to show you at least on a volunteer event. So if we went to a specific volunteer event record, where within a volunteer manager, where you're setting up specific volunteering opportunities, setting up shifts for when people are going to volunteer, and setting up all of those definitions and requirements, within those specific opportunities, you can have a field that defines your goal that's going to be aligned with that volunteering opportunity. The same type of structure could work for a grant, so that you could say, grant by grant, what does it align to? So which goal is this applicable to? In the same way that many of you might code your grants and use coding to be able to report on that activity. This would just be in sort of a different term, just another coding opportunity so that you align it to a specific goal, and then that matches to the goals that you're tracking in the goals tracking module. And then by associating those records together, then when this volunteering opportunity becomes active and people register to volunteer, and then they submit their hours for how many hours they contributed, all of those hours are tracked on the individual event, which would be, you know, the normal typical approach. We see how many people signed up, we see how many people, how many hours they volunteered, how many total dollars in terms of wage equivalency that would be. And then based on us associating this volunteer event to that goal, we can then take that another step further and roll it up at the goal level. And then that means across all of the events that are all related to clean water, let's say, then all of that clean water data can be aggregated to a single source, to that goal record in the goals tracking. And then you can use that for additional reporting as well, so that really any activity related to that specific goal, any of those data points can be aggregated together for any type of reporting that you're looking to do based on those KPIs that might be indicated within those specific events or within those specific grants. Within the grant level, which many of you guys might be doing today, with grants, you could do it certainly at a grant by grant basis where you're kind of coding your grants today. Another opportunity, if you have sort of a program where the program could be aligned to a goal, is that you could define that goal assignment at your program level or at your call level. And then that could essentially cascade down to your grants, so that for each grant that aligns back to that program, they would all align to a specific goal, and then we could have all of that data roll up to those appropriate goals. So like I was mentioning earlier, it doesn't necessarily need to be just structured around financial contributions. So many people will talk about, outcomes, outputs, those measurements, impact measurements, things of that nature. You can do that as well based on, again, setting targets that you're looking to achieve, being able to report on the data where you've had specific outcomes. So a framework that could work similarly to that, and you could align this on your goal structure as well, is something that I've set up within one of our programs here. So within our program manager, we have all of our program information, our grant guidelines, all of that. Your program records may look similarly or different, and that's okay. But what you can do within your program manager, or taking this over to the goals tracking, you could implement something similarly, is that you can define your impact metrics and the outcomes that you're looking to measure. And so that you can set specific targets of how many people do you want to impact, or whatever those specific values are for that program. And then you can track the actual outcomes that are being reflected in your grant reporting based on your grant reports being submitted and providing those values back from your grantees. So all of that data can aggregate and roll up to the program level or to a goal. There's a lot of opportunities and flexibility for being able to do that. And essentially, the key piece here is that you have to sort of define that framework. So what you want to measure and what those metrics are. And so if you can define that, then there's a variety of ways we can implement that within the system, and then be able to have the opportunity to define those targets. And then you would able to ask individual grantees, what do you expect to do in terms of all of these outcomes measurements that we're providing for this particular program. And then they would then provide you their expectations, and then they could measure that against their actual outcomes that they would be submitting to you period by period within their grant reports. And you certainly don't need to ask every grantee to provide every single one of those outcomes. I'm working with an organization right now that's providing a long list of, maybe around 100 different potential outcomes they want to measure. Some of them will be program specific, but then they're going to give the grantee the ability to pick from a drop-down list so that you can select, I think my grant project is going to be applicable to these 10 outcomes. So they'll pick those 10, they'll tell you what they expect the expectations to be, and then in their grant reporting, it'll also be reflected to be those 10. But on a whole, because you have defined structure and a defined framework and the measurements and the metrics that you're looking to track, not allowing everybody to write in their own expectations and their own metrics, by having a framework in place, then we can roll all that up either to a program level or to those goals. And really having that data in defined fields and being able to have it be numeric, as many of you know and understand, that's what's key in order for us to be able to provide really impactful reporting, and also being able to utilize that data elsewhere. As the organization that I'm working with right now that I just mentioned, they're going to be feeding that data into their business intelligence tool to do even more advanced dashboards, reporting, trends analysis, data analysis, and things like that. And really all of this provides you with that ability to provide additional visual reporting and things, so that in this example with this company impact graph, we can show in this chart all of those values, from the volunteering values, granting, employee giving, and then those specific targets that we were looking to hit. And then that again allows us for in different ways, whether it be from the lists or whether it be from in charts or additional system reports, it gives you the opportunity to really visualize that data and then be able to utilize it for additional maybe strategic analysis and things of that nature. And really, just as a reminder, a lot of these charts can be interactive so that you can see specific values, be able to drill down into that, and then also be able to export this type of data out of the system so that if you want an image for a presentation, just a reminder that those types of things exist by utilizing these types of report charts. So with that, that's kind of an overview of what we've looked to achieve with the goals tracking. I think we'll turn it over to questions.
Great, thanks so much, Dan. Would we be able to associate an object to multiple goals? For example, both water and social justice?
So you definitely can. There is an opportunity to select multiple goals and align it to a specific grant or a specific volunteer event or what have you. The only concern is sort of double counting. So as long as you bear in mind that, if you, let's say it's a $10,000 grant and you wanted to just keep it to dollars and cents. If we roll it up to 2 goals, then it almost shows that we gave $20,000 instead of $10,000. But if you're looking at it at a goal by goal level and not looking at it holistically, that's not really a problem, but that would just be one of the things you would want to consider.
Is this in your grant UTA or a separate UTA?
Yeah, great question, and using SmartSimple terminology. So for those that don't know, a UTA is shorthand for a universal tracking application, which is the different modules that, track different records in the system. So your submission manager, your program manager, your volunteer manager, things like that. This would be a separate UTA, a new UTA in your system. It can be pretty simple, so it doesn't have to be super complex. You'll see, I won't go through this right now, but you'll see that we're tracking interest levels in those goals. We've set that up in the purpose of being able to track employees' interests against those goals for employee engagement programs, so that can help drive CSR strategy if you know where your employees' interests lie as it relates to your CSR goals. It would be a new UTA, but you could keep it as simple as, and then you would just need to be able to, we would have to configure the formulas and the workflows based on the things you want to track and you want to roll up. And that would be sort of the, I guess, really big picture approach to how that would be implemented.
How do we implement the goals tracking structure?
What we would do, this would typically be something that you'd probably want to work with SmartSimple to be able to do. It would be an RFS, request for services type project, for us to be able to scope out what you're looking to track. And we can certainly provide a baseline framework, and then you can tell us what you may want to expand to it or what you want to do differently. And then we would be able to put that together into an RFS with an appropriate quote and a project timeline, and then we'd be able to work with you to build that out in the system. Certainly, like I always mention to everybody, there's nothing we can do that you cannot do. It's just the amount of training and knowledge and knowing how to configure the system. So for some of you that may be really savvy technically on being able to configure things in the platform, you could certainly go down this path on your own. But I know a number of you, this might be a larger undertaking that you may want some help with. And that's where, if you are interested in being able to do this, you can reach out to our platform solutions team. And we'll be able to assist you in navigating that and then determining what type of project that would look like.
Great, thanks, Dan. So it looks like that's all the questions right now. If people do have any further questions, though, after the presentation, you can definitely email us at businesssolutions@smartsimple.com, because we're always happy to hear from you. Great, thanks, Dan. Yeah, so like we said, feel free to email us after if you do have any further questions. And if not, we hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.